question. And with that, we start our NFL Hot Topics segment with some breaking news. The Kansas City Chiefs announced just moments ago that they will leave their longtime home at Arrowhead Stadium for a new $3 billion dome stadium that will be built across the Kansas-Missouri state line and be ready for the start of the 2031 season. So, as we bring in Albert Lainer, our NFL enthusiast, Kansas City's moving back to Kansas. Your thoughts on this news?
I guess, I guess Dorothy isn't the only one going back to Kansas.
Okay.
I don't know how the Lion and the Tin Man and others will take this. Maybe this was the work of the Wicked Witch of the West.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. The bonds will be paid off with state sales and liquor tax revenues generated in a defined area around it. So Kansas City Chiefs, they're moving. The Bears are looking at a stadium possibly in northwestern Indiana. The Bills are moving next across the street. A lot of these stadiums that have been around forever are going to look a little different here soon. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I don't know how people in Illinois are going to take the move to Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana, I believe, already has a team.
Right.
And which is playing tonight.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how well that will be received, especially considering the Bears' year.
Yeah.
Not only this past game, but also the year they've had.
Right.
So I don't know. It seems straight. It seems interesting to me that you're going to go and move to Indiana when you could at least move to some suburb in Illinois.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. You would have to look at the municipal and state politics in regards to that, and the economics as well.
Yeah. Get into your NFL recap in just a moment, but I am going to ask this question. Do you think in the modern era that to even get a stadium to get a stadium to its full value, you need a roof?
Well, I guess the Buffalo Bills don't think so.
Okay.
Because I understand their new stadium will not be domed.
Okay.
I believe it would be open air.
Okay.
So most of the stadiums are domed.
Right.
And most of them are indoors because you have more control over a game.
Well,
when you have an open air stadium, it's snow.
Right.
It's hard to play in the snow. It's hard to play in winter conditions.
Right.
It's not easy. Yeah.
Warren, are these stadiums? Are they thinking outside of football? Are they thinking, Taylor Swift's coming, and the Final Four could come, and this? Or are they just purely thinking football?
Well, see, with the stadium, it should be something that you can have other events at.
Right.
Because some of these stadiums do hold like high school football
championships. State title games and stuff. Right.
And so that's really important, because you have to understand, you're building a stadium. If it's only used about 4 months of the year, in regards to football, then it lies dormant for the rest of the year.
Right.
And of course, so it's only 4, and then you have about 8 more months that it isn't. So I assume that the stadiums, that they're used for other events. I haven't really gotten into the mechanics of NFL stadiums vis-a-vis their use.
Right.
So it's not an area that I've kind of ventured into. In my short sojourn thus far in the world of, I guess, sports broadcasting, if you could call it that, having had a podcast last year, which was the first time I did anything sports related, and now this year that I'm on this radio show.
Right.
And you know, yeah, I haven't thought about it. Most of my energy goes to what my specific purview is analyzing games. So going over the games, I don't get into the business side of it too much. Just like I don't concern myself too much with other elements like draft, and like some people will watch the draft and I go,
Yeah.
"Are you feeling well?
Right.
Are you
So you don't
something
know
wrong
who.
with you?"
So you don't know who's number one on Mel Kiper's big board.
No, I don't
Okay.
really care.
Okay.
I don't really care because at the end of the day, what's happened with me is that I come in. Again, my background is, for those who don't know, I'm a former freelance journalist. I'm a
Right.
former print journalist and freelance writer. I never covered sports. I think I had covered a couple of boxing matches, and I wrote an article once for local sports magazine. That was it, and that's it. And I don't really have a sports background. So I don't have this sort of omnipresent, this holistic view of sports in all its facets. For whatever reason that I've wound up
Yeah.
doing sports, I'm just dealing with the games
Yeah.
and analyzing the games.
That's the
going
best
over
part.
what occurred. That's what I've ended up doing.
Yeah.
I think those were in what I call the professional sports media world, and I'm not there yet.
Right.
Not unless I get a call from ESPN or
Right.
Fox Sports, and who knows? I
Yeah.
can't rule that out.
Right. Right.
But I'm just doing a local sports radio
There
show
you go.
here in California.
There you go.
So that's what I'm doing. And I, for whatever reason, the purview is analyzing the games.
Yeah.
The business side of it, you keep up a little, but like I don't care whether a stadium is domed
Right.
or
Right.
open.
Right.
It's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I don't get into questions like that or aspects like that unless I have to.
Right.
Unless something's occurred where you got to look into it
Yeah.
and you go, why is it this way? But yeah, that's my purview.
There you go.
Just so that people know, I'm sure anybody who's listened to this or seen it understands. What
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm
what
yeah.
that's where.
Right. It popped up. I know you probably had a thought and be willing to share it. So thank you for that. What week is this? 15? I
No,
forgot.
16.
Week 16. This is week 16. Okay. They all run together. Especially
Yes.
when they're on every night of the week, like they have been. In between.
Well, it's around that time
Yeah.
that the NFL goes.
Right.
We're gonna get games on Saturday,
Yeah.
besides Thursday, and then Sunday.
Yeah.
So closer together.
Right.
Um,
So
I
week
think the NFL
16.
had its way. I guarantee anybody, if the NFL had its way, there'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games.
Yeah.
And Monday.
Right.
They get 5 days a week.
Right.
Because they could sort out. When you look at it from a media perspective, the Thursday night game this week is the best game. There's no question. This past Thursday night game was the best game of the season. There's no question. And so, from a media perspective, having been a journalist previously in my life, I see why the NFL has the games on different days and is trying to spread them out, because it gives them more sports coverage. If you have everything on Sunday, there are only so many games that can be covered on Sunday. I
Right.
mean, you can have now with the sports networks, Fox and ESPN and others. Yeah, they can cover that, and with the internet, yeah, they can cover it. But you see what the NFL's doing, and it makes sense because what they want, I believe, I don't know if the commissioner said this or anyone who's affiliated with the NFL has said this, but the reality is the NFL really wants, I believe, that media focus.
Yeah.
Because it drives people to want to watch the games. and they want people watching the games, right? So that they'll go out and buy merchandise and be involved in other ways, right? And so it actually, when I look at the coverage of the NFL, probably compared to the past, and I look at it, actually, it's a lot more interesting from a media perspective to me. I don't know if people talk about this. Thursday night games aren't great.
No.
I mean, let's be honest.
They're not.
Nothing against Al Michaels. He's a great announcer, and the announcers, they have a good team there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But the problem is that the games scheduled are never really that good.
No.
Until this
Thursday,
this past Thursday, when it was as the NBA likes to say, fantastic.
Yeah.
Or used to. And so you look at, when I look at the way it is now, I have to be honest. It's, I'm not into college football. I understand people do. And that's why, the NFL obviously can't do games on Saturday unless it's like near the end of the season.
Right.
But when I look at the way it is now, actually work out, it would be better for the NFL to have games on Saturday. Get rid of the Thursday night game. If they could, I don't think they can, but if they could, have it on Saturday and then Sunday, and then Monday you have that block.
Yeah.
That would be a lot more advantageous, but that's never going to happen.
Right.
College football would have to disappear in order for the NFL, and the NFL would have to get cutthroat in order for that to happen. I don't know that they want to get that cutthroat.
Right. I
don't know that they do, but I could see these individual games. Like, I never was a fan of Thursday night football anyway, but what you see with Monday night football was, I think, the model, which is you can talk about a game,
right,
and that gets people interest. It builds fan interest.
Yep.
And I, for example, liked the games on Saturday. I didn't care for the Eagles-Commanders game too much, but I liked the game on Saturday. And and you look at that and you go, when you look at this, I use that as a great example. Thursday was Rams Seahawks. Saturday, of course, you also had the Bears Packers.
Right.
That scheduling
was a much better game than James Madison in Oregon. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, Oregon was a power.
They
still are.
That was not a close.
I must not fall. I must have been away from college football. I'm going, wait a minute. James Madison is a college football powerhouse right now.
They won the Sun Belt. Really? Yeah, they won the Sun Belt, got into the playoff. Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, Indiana University. But University of Indiana, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Bobby Knight's gone.
Right.
They're a basketball dynasty.
Yeah.
Or were. And I'm like, they moved to football. I'm like, I don't, that's why I said I don't follow college football like what I used to do when I was younger. But I'm looking at this, I'm going, what's happened to the NCAA?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that the college players are being paid. That's the part I'm happy about.
Yep.
I've been waiting for that for a long time. But I'm like, I mean, I see why people complain about the playoffs.
Right.
James Madison, Indiana. And by the way, to college football players, if any of you get nominated for the Heisman, just lose gracefully.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Don't throw the F word at the voters and do that. That's really disrespectful. And it means that if you're going to disrespect them, not that they're worthy of respect, I don't care about them in terms of respect. It's just bad manners. And one thing I know about college football, you got to have a degree of manners. People don't understand that. The NFL's different. That guy, I'm not going to say his name. You can talk that way when you get to the NFL.
Yeah.
College football's different. I remember Matt Millen of the Raiders said, it was very interesting. He said when he was at Penn State, he was told the way to address the referees is, "Excuse me, Mr. Official."
Yeah.
When he came to the NFL, it was a whole different. It wasn't "excuse me." It was
Yeah.
"F you."
Right.
That's all I can say because
Right.
I'm on the radio. And other things. And we certainly, I get, after seeing what I saw this week in regards to officials, I can understand why some players feel that way.
Yeah.
Yes, Puka Nakua, I'm talking about you.
Uh-oh.
Partly.
Yeah.
Or a little.
Okay.
By the way, to Puka Nakua, not that he's ever going to come across this, you're supposed to talk about the refs to your friends
Right.
and your teammates. You don't say it on a podcast.
Right.
And you don't go on Twitter and write that. Or
Right.
X, whatever
it's called, yeah.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get into some football.
Yeah, like
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that would help.
Sorry.
I guess we were talking about
We
football.
were not, but it's fine.
We're talking about football, but not really.
No.
Football. Not intended.
Right. Let's let's talk about the AFC for a minute. You've got an AFC battle. I mean, 6 teams are really competing for this number 1 seed. All 6 have a legitimate shot. You're shaking your head no. It's really, I think, if you ask somebody like yourself, it's really down to 2 teams.
Yeah.
It's
you call that precisely right.
But well, mathematically though, I have to talk about the numbers. Mathematically, 6 teams have a shot at the number 1 seed. But we're down to 2 realistically, the Broncos and the Patriots.
Right.
Both teams, to me, watching them this week, did not look like what a number 1 seed should look like. So your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I said this a little before, and I'll say it again. The AFC is flawed. They're not the NFC. The NFC, you saw that Rams-Seahawks game. You know, Rams got some flaws, but this is a solid team. And you got the Seahawks. They're another solid team. I would be a little surprised if either one of those teams didn't go to the Super Bowl. A little surprised. But you look at that NFC, and those teams are solid. The Rams have rarely had a bad loss other than the Panthers. And then the Seahawks, yeah, it's a bad loss, but it was a close game. And they did what they needed to win that game, but they just got beat. You look at the Seahawks, that defense has been scary at times. And they've demonstrated that they can win in different fashion. They had nothing but field goals in the Colts game previously, last week. And this week, they're scoring touchdowns. But you look at the AFC, and you look at the Bears come up in that, and that's one of the Cinderella stories of the NFL. But you look at the AFC, and all those teams are flawed. There's some very good, they're good teams and some really good teams. The Broncos have been far better than they were last year. I don't care what anyone says. This is a team that's far better than they were last year. And they had a good year last year, went to the playoffs. This team is better. You look at New England. They've come from nowhere. They come from the dead. They're like something out of, they're what I call a Romero team. They're what I call a Romero team. Like George Romero, who did Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead is the middle film, Day of the Dead, all the Dead trilogy. The other Dead film, a more recent, Land of the Dead, I think it's called. They're a Romero team. They've come from the dead previous seasons and now are going into the playoffs. The problem is with both teams is that you've got what the AFC is. You've got teams that have significant flaws playing. So the Broncos, they're a late offensive team. Very good defense, but their defense is very pass rush oriented. So they're a late quarter team. You look at New England; there have been some weeks where they barely won games. Like Atlanta played them very well, and they barely beat Atlanta. And and New England is still the weird thing about the Patriots. They're still kind of they're basically a work in progress.
Yeah.
They're basically what you would call a rebuild, right? And they don't really have a lot of playmakers, or stars, but they're getting it done. But the problem is that they're still vulnerable, right? And you saw it in this game last night.
Yeah.
So when you look at these AFC teams, you look at the Chargers, that offensive line's been beat up.
Yeah.
And they're still managing to win games. Which is interesting. But that offensive line that's one of the reasons they lost last year. The Texans shredded that offensive line and just nailed the Chargers. And that, I don't know if the Chargers make the playoffs, and it looks like they might, I don't know what they're going to do with that offensive line. I mean, so far they managed to survive, but I don't know what they're going to do. You look at the Texans. The Texans barely beat Raiders this week.
Yeah.
Barely beat them. And the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the AFC, if not NFL. And they couldn't stop Aston Genty.
No.
Aston Genty had another breakout game, rare one, because they don't give him the ball that much. And he's never given a chance because they're a horrible offensive line.
Yeah.
And I'm a Raiders fan. I'm a fan of three teams. And again, they barely beat them. And you look at the Jaguars. They beat the Broncos. That doesn't mean anything to me. Because this team is what I call a good bad team. They're a bad team that's playing very well right now. You have a good coach that came in, and he's managed to, and they made good trade. They got Jacoby Myers there. They utilize their personnel well. That's what's happened with New England as well. Vrabel is just utilizing the personnel and getting results. When you talk about development, that seems to be what he's doing in New England, Mike Vrabel. He's developing, along with the offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel. What's his name? Josh McDaniels. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're developing Drake May. So you look at the AFC, it's wide open this year. The problem is every team is vulnerable. Every team is vulnerable. And you look at the NFC teams, there's not too many vulnerabilities. So it's going to be very interesting who makes it to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a pure year. No dynasty. The only chance of a possible dynasty is if the Eagles make it.
Right.
And they're not.
Well, the Eagles clinched. The Eagles did clinch a playoff spot, so they're in it. But how far they make it is to be determined.
Yeah, they're vulnerable. They're probably the most vulnerable team in the NFC with a good record. So the AFC teams are all flawed. They don't have to be perfect and pristine, but there's no solid team.
Yeah.
There's no solid team in the AFC. Real good teams, but no solid team.
Yeah.
Stings and dents on everyone.
Right.
With a good record.
So these aren't my numbers. I don't do this. This is the analytics of where I got my sources. So these are the 6 teams that they are saying could get potentially. A lot of stuff would have to happen, of course, for some of these teams, but could still get the 1 seed. New England's 12-3. Buffalo's 11-4. Okay, Jacksonville is in the hunt, 11-4. Houston's in the hunt at 10-5. Denver at 12-3. Chargers 11-4. And so those are the 6 teams that are supposedly battling for this number 1 spot.
So I have to say to those listening and those who can see on YouTube, I didn't wear a long sleeve shirt rolled up, so I can't do a Steve Carnecki.
Yeah. Steve Carnacki. Yeah. Right.
So I can't do that.
No,
segment.
You're not going to go to the big board, right?
Segment. But what I will say is this: I'll do my own witness jacket on. I go. So, folks, if you look at all these teams, I believe the one that has the best chance or the better chance of being the top seed would probably be the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Close to that would be the New England Patriots.
Exactly.
Because you also have to look at the teams that they play, the remaining schedule, and also what it would take for some of these teams. The idea that the Houston Texans could be the number 1 seed probably makes about as much sense as thinking that you can have an offensive pass interference call when time runs out and still win a game.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably not going to happen. And we don't even know if the Texans are actually going to make the playoffs. They might not. We'll have to see. So I think realistically, those are. Like I said, the AFC, they're all flawed.
Yeah.
They're all banged up, dinged up, not banged up necessarily in terms of injuries. Some are, some aren't. But they're all vulnerable teams. There's an Achilles heel in every one of the teams contending for the top seed and contending for the playoffs.
How great was the Bears-Packers game?
Again, to quote from the NBA, it was fantastic.
Okay.
I would say that the game of the year tag that was affixed to the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks game should be removed.
Okay.
If there's a contender for game of the year, it's the Bears-Packers game.
Okay.
If you look at the last end of that game, if you look at the later stages of that game into fourth quarter, you rarely get a game with that many surprises and plays. Sometimes you do, but not often. What I would say is this. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Obviously, again, I don't think anyone from the NFL watches this. I don't think anyone from the teams watch it.
No.
Watch this show, which is sad because they should.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Listen to me.
Well, don't we all?
Right here. But I would say this. I've said this before. I'll say it again. You cannot allow the Chicago Bears to get the ball in the last 2 minutes of a game. You cannot allow them to. I don't know what Ben Johnson has done because I don't speak to people with the Bears and I don't speak to beat reporters and I don't speak to anyone. I watch the games and I come on here and I analyze the games. It would be interesting if they contacted me and I could talk to them, but that's not the case. What I would say is this. I don't know what Ben Johnson and his staff have done in regards to it. This team is able to run a 2-minute drill. And they're able to win games in the last either 2 minutes or the last minute. And it's no longer, it started, I used to say they were the luckiest team in the NFL. That's not the case. They're just playing now. They took advantage of those opportunities and won games. Now they're just winning games by making the right moves at the right time. Again, I don't know what the new head coach, Ben Johnson, has done with this team specifically, but they seem ready to play in the last 2 minutes. Whatever occurs in the prior, hour and a half and in the first half, and in half of the second half, doesn't matter. By the time they get to the fourth quarter, it's all business with the Chicago Bears. You look at this game, yeah, Jordan Love was removed for a concussion, right?
Yeah.
That's an impact. What would this game have been had he been in? Could the Bears have won it? I think they could have. But the reality was that this was a team that was behind even with Love out.
Right.
And what was important was that they were able, and that's where fortune favors them. Again, return of being lucky. But it's really opportunity. They took advantage of the opportunity of what apparently was a Green Bay player unable to hold on to the ball with the onside kick. And they were able to get that kick. And they were able to head down what remained of the field. And Caleb Williams was able to throw to an undrafted rookie.
Right.
And get a touchdown. This is a guy who wasn't getting touchdowns. This is a guy who really wasn't getting that many passes. But he got that pass at that time. So you're looking at this team. I'm looking at this team. The Packers are losing people. And, they lost their insurance policy with Micah Parsons.
Right.
And, and they had lost Kraft, their tight end.
Right.
The reality with the Packers is that they're a team that have some good personnel, but they're not really able to do it in the playoffs unless they get a Dallas Cowboys and they're able to beat up on them like they did previously. They don't really have what it takes. I said this about the Packers. They don't really have what it takes. This Bears team, though, again, this is a historic rivalry.
Right.
Probably the historic rivalry in the NFL. And so it's different. It wasn't just that they won a game. This was a division rival and a rival historically. So that's big for the Bears. And I guess their fans. That's big for them. You look at this team, Caleb Williams is able to he's making the moves in the fourth quarter. If people could say, well, he's only 60% effective on his passes, and his numbers aren't the greatest. He's winning games. And he's making good passes, really good passes sometimes. And he's able to again, this is a team that's able to win in the fourth quarter. In really the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like that game was again, outstanding. And again, that was closer to game of the year than the Rams-Seahawks. As good as that game was with the Rams-Seahawks.
Okay.
That game was absolutely smashing the Bears-Packers, as I thought it would be.
Okay. Where do both teams go from here?
Well, the Bears have to find a way to try to win their division.
Yeah.
Well, they're already in the playoffs.
Right.
So they know they're going to the playoffs. First time in a couple of years. Where they have to go from that point on is they've got to adjust to playing in the playoffs. It will depend on who their opponent is. So they got to prepare for that down the road. It's only 2 more weeks, but down the road they're going to have to prepare for that.
Okay. Same question, different game. How great was the Steelers-Lions game?
I would say that's another great game. I mean, I have to be brutally honest. This week was one of the best weeks of the 2025 season. There's no question. That Rams-Seahawks game already got people not only talking and arguing and fussing, depending on what side of the ball people are fans of, but it got people, again, media coverage that got a ton of coverage, right? That's why these games are important. These single or maybe dual game days for the NFL. And maybe I'm saying this in a way that you don't get on the networks or the cable channels, the sports channels, or even on sports radio. other types of sports radio, most sports radio shows. The coverage is really effective with these kinds of games, and people will keep talking about it. This is a game that's trying to be talked about for at least a few days.
Yeah.
Unless the Monday night game is stellar.
Right.
Unless it's fantastic.
Okay.
That Steelers-Lions game was important because it was you don't see these teams play too much.
Right.
And also because of the ending of this game.
Yeah.
Everybody will remember the ending.
Right.
And the thing that you got to keep in mind is the Steelers came into this game, they're already winning a couple games. Their offense has come alive. I mean, Tomlin or someone on his staff was, flipped the switch, and this offense is scoring points. And and they're beating teams like, when you look at the Lions are one of the best offenses in the NFL. They reduced the Lions. The defense of the Steelers reduced them to something like 15 yards rushing. And this is a team with two good runners. Gibbs and I'm trying to remember the other name. But you've got Montgomery. You've got two good running backs on this team. And they have a good run game. And it was stopped in its tracks. And the Steelers got over 200 yards, I believe, running in this game. I mean, this is a different Steeler team than the one that's occurred the prior weeks. Because now that offense has gotten going. And you look at their players, they're making plays. They're not just making plays, they're making some pretty good plays. Look at what Gainwell did with that catch. He was down, and the thing about that catch, I'm looking at this, I'm going, that ball came to him directly.
Right.
That's what you got to look at. He's down, as is the other player, the Detroit Lions player. That ball is coming down to him. He gets it, gets up and runs into the end zone for a touchdown. Like, they're executing plays like that. Now, I'm sure people want to know about the end of this game.
Right. So well, they want to hear your thoughts. They know what happened at the end of the game. They want to know what you think about it.
Here's the thing that you have to understand. Here's what's weird about that. I don't know that anybody is looking at why the Lions player directly committed that OPI, which is offensive pass interference.
Right.
I don't know anyone's really talking about that. Because when you look at this, one of the things you have to understand about referees from what I've seen is if there is a play that occurs prior of the same type, they're going to be on the lookout for something like that so they can throw a flag. You already had an offensive pass interference play before that, which negated a touchdown for the Lions. And so it's 4th and goal. I think it was 4th and goal.
Yeah.
And you have a pass, you have a player run up to a Pittsburgh Steeler defender who I guess was either on the line, meaning the goal line, or maybe slightly off, push him, and then move away, expecting the ball. Did they not understand that they had an offensive pass interference call before?
Right.
I mean, I think this would go through your mind that you don't want to go and commit something that's an obvious OPI. Obvious one. So I look at that and I go, why isn't anyone talking about that? I mean, they're talking about the fact it was an obvious call and it was a correct one. But why did the player do that? Couldn't you have run the route without? I mean, I understand if it's man coverage and the Steeler defender is on you and you go like that. That I can understand. But you're going up to the defender, pushing him, and then pushing off. And so it didn't surprise me that he gets stopped. And he stopped, what, a couple yards from the end zone?
Yeah.
And, of course, flips it to Goff, Jared Goff, who runs in for what would have been a touchdown, maybe, if there was time on the clock. That's another element. You got to look at the fact they're triple zeros. So the
was there?
Has gone out.
Yeah, was there? My only problem with this, and I'd have to look more into the rules about it, and I'd have to go back and watch the play, because I always thought once the flag is thrown, that play's dead.
Precisely.
Yeah. So if there's time on the clock when the flag is thrown, you would have to replay the down, do you not?
Well, here's the point I would make.
Yeah.
I would probably agree with that. So here's the point. When I saw the play, when I saw the flag, remember the flag went down.
Right.
Because I went back to look at this a couple times. The flag was thrown and went down before Goff went into the end zone. Number one. This is what I would say. So I'm looking at that. I'm saying, well, that's not going to count because there's already a flag. It also probably wouldn't count because triple zeros in the clock. By the time you get to the end zone, I think it was like time had expired.
Right, yeah.
So if you're going to do that move, which to me seemed like some people would disagree with me, I don't think that was a play that was just spur of the moment.
No.
Because it looked a little too...
Yeah.
It looked a little too well done for that.
Right.
It's like he knew that could happen.
Yeah.
And he was ready to go. Jared Goff was ready to go and boom. That was quick.
Right.
And I don't care how good a football player you are. When you get something that improvised, you're not going to move that quickly. I mean, it's almost like he was ready to go. And they had that ready, near the end. The problem is with that move is, say they had 5 seconds on the clock. If that player gets held by the two Pittsburgh defenders, and with 5 seconds left, maybe 4, throws the ball to Goff, and then he runs in with maybe 1 second remaining, then you could think about the touchdown. The problem is the flag was already, even if that happened within regulation, doesn't matter. The flag was thrown, and if the flag's thrown, you got a penalty like offensive pass interference negates. So that's what you have to look at. And again, I don't know why anybody isn't questioning why did the player for Detroit make that play,
right?
Especially when you had an offensive pass interference call. Why? It made no sense to me logically. Like, you couldn't have run that route by not touching a Pittsburgh player? Something doesn't add up here. I don't know why this isn't being talked about. And I don't want to sound like one of these guys on YouTube that thinks everything is rigged.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention one guy's name who I can't stand, but you have to kind of wonder about that play. Why did that player do that?
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't really add up. And so the last thing I'll get to is this. The official, strangely, did not properly format his explanation. Normally when you see an official, they refer first to the penalty.
Yeah.
In this case, the proper way to do this, I sure hope if referees are watching this, they're probably not going to.
I'm gonna get Gene Steratore on you here. Be careful.
Yes, but I'm going to say it anyway, and let them talk about me.
Yeah.
Nobody will, but let them talk about me if they want. The official way that I have seen referees announce penalties is offense, or pass interference.
Right.
Offense, number whatever the number
Right.
is. That's the way that this should have been explained. You explain and state the penalty first,
Right.
and then you go into the
15 yards or
defining
right, yeah.
facets and other conditions within the field of play and so forth.
Yeah.
That's not what this referee did. He said the play was technically a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then the crowd went wild, and I'm going, does this guy know how to announce a play?
I have no idea.
That's not what the action is. People aren't concerned about, well, the Lions fans are concerned.
Right.
I don't blame them for getting excited. But this guy didn't explain the call properly. So I don't know the referee. I don't know his background.
Yeah.
I'm going to be brutally honest. The NFL, before I finish this up, the NFL needs to make referees full-time employees.
Yeah, I agree.
You need to train them properly. You can't have these referees be lawyers and dentists and doctors and engineers and architects and then come in the weekend and do this. That may work in college football. That may work in high school football. It doesn't work in professional football.
Yeah.
This guy did not properly format the announcement. The announcement when it comes to a penalty is penalty, the side of the team, and which would be either offense or defense, and then whatever yardage, and before that, whatever conditions you need, and the yardage, right? Your explanation for this should have been pass, offensive, pass interference, offense, number, so on and so forth. There was also a touchdown in the end zone.
Yeah.
By rule, the offensive pass interference penalty negates the touchdown. Therefore, the game is over and you move on. Yeah. That's the way it should have been explained. Instead, there was a touchdown. Well, by the rule and by what's happened, it's not an actual touchdown.
Right.
It would have been a theoretical touchdown because it can't count because you had an offensive pass interference penalty.
Right.
And he stated that later. The penalty negates it. And he also said, can't enforce the penalty. I understand because you can't enforce it in terms of you're not going to do another play. So what people have to understand is, so the referee did a piss poor job of explaining the rule. That's the syntax is out of order. It's not the way that you announce a penalty.
Right.
I don't know how long this guy has been an official, but someone needs to tell him you screwed up in explaining this. That's not the way it's done. And I'm not even somebody who's been an official in any capacity.
Right.
Even I can tell you that. Right? And I'm not even one of these sports writers or sports reporters or sports anything. But
yeah, no, I gotcha. I gotcha.
They don't. That it's just not explained. But it was a offensive pass. It was a blatant offensive pass interference.
Yeah.
Again, why the player did it to a Pittsburgh defender, to me, as Robert Stack would say, is an unsolved mystery. I don't know why anyone isn't discussing this.
Yeah.
Why aren't they talking about it? I mean, they just said, oh, yeah, he pushed off. There was no need for him to do that.
Right.
He went up to the player and did it. Like, I could see if it's man coverage and you do it. You don't need to do that. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I agree.
I'm saying,
yeah.
I'm looking at this, I'm going, something is weird here.
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to make this weirder than it is, but I know people are going to go through this like researchers have gone through the Zapruder film dealing with the JFK assassination. They did that probably with the Cubs-Packers game, and they did it with the Rams-Seahawks game.
Yeah.
Something doesn't add up here. It's very strange. Not only was it a strange ending to a game, it was a strange decision on the part of the Lions player. Why this isn't being talked about, I don't really know. I haven't seen any discussion of it other than, yes, it was an obvious offensive penalty.
Yeah.
But why? You already had an OPI call that negated a touchdown. You're not going to get it in your head that you're not going to try to draw another penalty, especially this late in the game. Something doesn't add up here.
Right.
But I'm sorry that went into
that's
extensive effect. I feel like Kevin Costner in the movie JFK. Back and to the left.
Yeah.
But it was. Nobody's discussing this. It's strange, and I don't think anybody. I mean, some people have talked about the referee. I don't think I've ever seen a referee that didn't use the right
verbiage, right?
Language.
Yeah.
It didn't. You need to tell them that it's a penalty.
Yeah.
It's an offensive penalty that negates the touchdown.
Right.
If you tell them the touchdown.
On any other day, this would have been a touchdown, but
theoretically,
yeah,
it's a touchdown theoretically.
Yeah. Then why ain't it today? If it's a touchdown any other day, then it needs to be a touchdown now. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well,
based on that logic, though, if you're going to go out there, and if you're the official, and you're going to go out there and you're going to say, this usually is a touchdown.
Right. Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about the Ravens-Steelers game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was the two-step.
Yeah.
The two-step and the drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't get into that.
Right.
But, yeah, it made me think about that a little.
But,
I've suffice it to say that it was a very strange ending.
Yeah.
To what was a good game.
Right. Maybe they're not. I'll give ESPN and our friends at ESPN and our friends at Fox and others. I think maybe they're not covering the referee because they're a bit preoccupied with Ryan Kennedy, the Detroit Lions fan involved in the altercation with Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf. He has come out and he denies using the N-word, the C-word, or any racial slur or hate-based language during the incident. That's a statement released by the Michigan law firm this afternoon. These allegations are completely false. The statement released by the Sean Head and Sean Murphy of Head Murphy Law Firm Records. Metcalf, who played for the Seahawks before being traded to the Steelers this year, reported Kennedy to Seattle team security in the past. The Seahawks played at Detroit in 22, 23, and 24. On his Nightcap podcast, former NFL wide receiver Chad Ochocinco Johnson said the words caused Metcalf to react, implying that it was a racial slur. And the fan has said that's not true. Metcalf, in his post-game interview, said what triggered him was the fact that the fan used his full name and told him to get over here. And then what was said in that huddle is still being investigated on. Your thoughts on fan interference in games?
Well, it seems you had a player, you had a fan or I guess a rival fan, or someone try to put their hands on Lamar Jackson.
Right. Remember that?
Jackson had to push back.
Right.
You have to wonder about what's going on with some of these people in the stands. That happens from time to time. Normally, players would just verbally use what I call verbal fisticuffs on them, and go back. And I've seen that happen a number of times. But that's very different. This was different in that there was a kind of physical move that was made by Metcalf toward this guy. And it looked to me like he was trying to get him to do something. This so-called fan. I guess he's a Lions fan.
Yeah.
This fan was trying to try to get him to act against him in some way. That's what I believe happened. I don't know what was said. I don't know what occurred previously, but it was very clear this was a setup.
Yeah.
By this guy. So the reality is that you have to wonder about, what goes on with some of these participants, not participants, but, onlookers, some of these fans in these stadiums. And again, there doesn't seem to be, it's one thing if it's verbal. I think that's perfectly fine. I think where you have to be careful is if it's physical. And again, what these people in the stands don't understand is these players will not tolerate any disrespect,
right,
or any touchy-feely kind of things. So if you put your hand on a player, be prepared to get a hand put on you, or
right,
hands put on you.
Yeah.
So if they don't understand that, they should. So I don't know what's going to happen. I assume that the league will mete out some punishment to DK Metcalf, but we'll see what happens.
Still awaiting that. Want to switch gears though to a game that really, on paper, meant nothing. That was the Bengals and the Dolphins. The only notable thing was Joe Burrow threw for 309 yards. That was impressive. But Quinn Ewers, in his NFL debut, went 20 for 30, 260 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Bengals won at 45-21. Your thoughts on Quinn Ewers?
Well, I think other than the interceptions, he had a decent game outside of that. The Dolphins were kind of on a roll, and they were at least, at this point, they don't really have anything to play for other than pride. And they were showing that they had an offense that could win games. And they were making the right moves. And then they ran into a wall, and that wall was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Bengals, I guess, let out a lot of frustration by putting up points, getting turnovers and putting up points in this game. The Bengals looked about as good with Burrow back this year as I've seen them. And I think he's still unhappy in Cincinnati.
Could be. I've heard that rumor.
Yeah. Well, I think it's exacerbated by the fact that he's kind of stated it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So when you have a quarterback like that saying it's not fun anymore, people are logically going to assume it's trade. And the thing about the Bengals are, he's had injuries, and he's in a position where, and I've said this elsewhere, when he's on that team, it's almost like he carries a good chunk of that team. He carries that team largely. His ability helps them win games. I saw it last year especially. They had a good run toward the end of the season. Almost made it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Burrows is a guy who could take a team and put it on his shoulders and get him. But I think he's gotten to a point where I don't think it's reciprocation. I understand that the owner is kind of cheap of the Bengals. The owner is cheap. You've got a team that their defense is lackluster. And an offensive line is pretty stagnant to terrible. And the key to having a successful team is you have to have a good offensive line. I've stated this before, I'll state it again. This is my theory, if you could call it the NFL, is the offensive line is the important integer in regards to the additional multiplication of victory in the NFL. It starts with the offensive line. If you have a bad offensive line, you can win games, but it's hard.
Yeah.
You have to have a pretty good offense to be able to do that. But even with a pretty good offense, eventually that offensive line is going to draw you. It's going to be problematic. So, bad offensive line, bad defense. I mean, the reality is the Bengals, with the talent they have on that team, should be a contender. And they're not, one, because of an injured Joe Burrow, but also because that defense cannot help them win games. Can't do it. I don't care who you have. You could have Flacco on that team. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, this was it was a nice victory for the Bengals, but they're beating the Dolphins, whose tank has run out at this point. Still, they're going to have a better season. The Dolphins are going to have a better season than not a great season or a good season, but a better season than they started out with.
Okay.
But, I don't think it changes much. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow is traded, but I'm also not going out of my way to expect that.
Yeah. Final question. I want to just jump ahead. Last month, you and I were looking at the Thanksgiving slate, and we said, wow, when's the last time you've had 3 great games on Thanksgiving? You look at the Christmas slate, and you would have thought you were on the naughty list. Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, Vikings, Broncos, Chiefs. What games stand out to you next week or in that Christmas slate that you'll be tuned in on?
Well, obviously, you got to look at Broncos Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs were beaten by the Titans. And I have to say this about the Titans. They're playing better now. They're a work-in-progress team with Cam Ward, but this is a team that's taking what few playmakers, I mean, they don't really have real playmakers, but few good players they have, and they're making plays, and they're, of course, this Chiefs team is really a desiccated husk, a shell of what it was, even with the remaining offense, which is still decent, pretty good. Patrick Mahomes is the real driver of that team. And I don't even think they made much of an effort. I mean, they contended, but they didn't make much of an effort in this game. I think they're going to have to find a way to at least have a decent showing against Denver.
Okay.
Whether you want to call it win one for Patrick, whatever you want to do. Do I think they're going to beat the Broncos? But they got to play a better game. And so I think that one will be a pretty good one. As for the others, Dallas has lost a couple of games. I think they need to try to get back in form and win the last couple games and at least shine the third part of third part of their season here. And so that game might be interesting. You never know. It might be a surprise. The Dallas Commanders game might be a surprise.
Okay.
It might be. I don't really think it will be, but it might be. In the other game, I think you mentioned the Vikings game.
Yeah.
With McCarthy out, I don't think that's going to be that interesting.
So Lions and the Vikings.
Yeah, that might have been last year. That would have been a great game.
Yeah.
This year, it might be interesting. At this point, the Lions need a win.
Yeah.
And so they better play. I mean, I don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs.
I don't think so. Not at 8-7.
They need to win. So, just get their pride back and get off on the right foot for next year. But I would look at the Chiefs Broncos because of the nature of, essentially, since everybody's talking about the Broncos losing to the Jaguars. They're not talking about that as much as the other games, but the Broncos lost to the Jaguars. Jaguars beat them by 14 points. And the Jaguars are what I call a good bad team. Yeah. They're not a great team, but they're playing well right now. The Broncos have got to get their mojo back. They got to win this game. They got to win it. They don't need to get into the playoffs, but I think they need it to kind of make sure they're on the right path getting into the playoffs. You don't want to be losing games when you get into the playoffs. So, again, it's what I call PGID, playoff games in December.
There you go. Wise Guy Show, where do we go? Can we put it in our stocking?
Put it in the stocking. Put it near the tree, on top of the tree.
On top of the tree, okay.
And put it everywhere. Put it on the shelf. Put it wherever you want.
Okay.
The Wise Guy Show can be seen and heard on YouTube. You can go to, I guess it would be Al Lanier, Ryder Albert Lanier. That's at Ryder Albert Lanier 3434. That's the official channel. So Ryder Albert Lanier channel on YouTube for the Wise Guy Show. Week 16 is out, so you can go and take a look at that episode and my other episodes of all the weeks of the NFL season for 2025. So check out the Wise Guy Show with yours truly as host on YouTube.
Okay. He is Albert Lainer. Hope you have a great holiday or holidays, and we will see you next Monday for Week 17 of the NFL.
All right.